Hey there, this is Elena with Black Sheep 303 Creative, and my project today is a Halloween card featuring alcohol inks on silver sparkle cardstock for the background, so pretty colorful there. This is the cardstock. It is specifically designed for alcohol ink by Holtz, and very sparkly as you can see there. Colors I'm using are Sunset Orange, Sunshine Yellow, and Wild Plum for my alcohol inks, and I will use the blower tool a little bit for this. Now, I have never used the silver sparkle cardstock before, so I was curious to see how this would work, and I gotta tell you, pretty impressive. Now I'm just dropping droplets of the alcohol ink onto this, nothing fancy happening, and you'll see how as they combine, it creates some really cool effects. Now normally if you would combine or mix like purple and yellow together, because they are complementary colors, you would get mud, kind of like a brown. But with this cardstock, that does not seem to happen. And it does blend, but it doesn't get muddy, as you can see in some parts here. And it's a very cool effect. And it also dries pretty quickly. Like the alcohol ink dry on this pretty fast. So I couldn't really use the blower tool very much at all, just because the ink dried so quickly. But the fun part about alcohol inks, if you have never used them, is just to see the effects that are created when you just combine the colors together. And it's never the same twice, and totally different. And I did shake the purple there to get all those like little tiny droplets on there, and you can see what's happening here. Pretty cool and really vibrant, very bright. Not as bright as Yupo, and I will show you a piece of Yupo in a minute to compare the two, but very saturated look, although it has a frosted effect to it, sort of a glittery look that is super pretty. So here you can see this is the alcohol ink silver sparkle cardstock, and I don't know if you can tell there, the rings that are formed around the colors are super vibrant and like almost neon. It almost looks like foil. You can only tell when the light hits it just right, but it's so cool. And now on the Yupo, which is this piece here, which is kind of a plasticky paper, much more glossy and deeper color, but you can see where brown has formed where the yellow and the purples have mixed together, and it just looks completely different, but really also pretty too, but a totally different look. Now I've trimmed the sparkle cardstock down to 3 3/4 by 7. It was originally 5 by 7 to go on my card base, the front of which is 3 7/8 by 9. And then I have die cut out this circle from the second smallest die in the Elizabeth Craft Design Stitch Circles die set. And I have also die cut out the witch and the house from this set, which is the haunted house die set, also from Elizabeth Craft Designs. The colored cardstock I am using is all from Gina K. So it's black onyx for the card base and the house and the witch, and then wild dandelion for the yellow. Now I hoped that I could use the background to show through the windows of the house, but it doesn't really work. It's a little too patterned, and the house sort of gets lost in the pattern. So I decided I needed to back the windows in the wild dandelion yellow color, which helps it stand out from the background. Now, something to consider when you're using a really busy background like this is the elements you want to put in front need to be pretty simple. And that is why I am using basically silhouettes only to really separate them from the more busy background. That is just a tip, because if you get anything that's too, say, lacy or has too many holes in it, it really gets lost on all of the sea of colors that are on that alcohol ink background. So the silhouettes here are what works really well. Now this cardstock for the alcohol ink it's heavyweight. It's not super heavy, but it's probably like 100 pound, or I don't know. It is a nice solid surface. So I really wanted to make sure that it would adhere down well to the cardstock front, or the card base front, and not peel up. So I'm using a combination of ATG gun as well as liquid glue, and this is the Gina K Connect glue. to get this adhered down nicely onto the card front. It's got a tiny, tiny little black border all the way around the edges and then about an inch on the top and the bottom. I have trimmed off the excess wild dandelion cardstock from the back of the house, so that will set that off from the background, as you see there. And the witch is almost dry too. And now I'm going to use my Stampers Big Brush pen in white, which is basically like a paint pen, and hand draw this sort of zigzaggy line on the top and bottom borders. I was inspired by a stamp in the greeting stamp set that I will use here in a minute, that is from Jane's Doodles, called Winnie Halloween, that my buddy Lori gave me. Hey Lori. And I wanted the stamp. It has a stamp just like that zigzag line, and I really liked it, but it was a little bit too skinny, so I decided I would just hand draw one and make it look a little wonky, because my house is wonky and everything else is a little wonky on this Halloween card. So again, I'm using liquid adhesive to adhere down the two silhouettes, the house and the moon, and it works really well. I didn't have any problem adhering anything to this cardstock. You know how sometimes glitter cardstock can be a little bit tricky to adhere things to? This worked just fine. It's really, really flat. Even though it has kind of a glittery look to it, it's super flat and works like a charm. Really, really nice. So here's the stamp set I was talking about, and that's the greeting I'm using, which is Happy Halloween. And I'm stamping this onto a piece of wild lilac cardstock with VersaFine Onyx black ink. So I'm trying to pull in the purple and the black from the front. And you can see I've already hand drawn one zigzaggy line there across the bottom, and then now I will draw another one across the top. Obviously these aren't going to be super straight, but you know, they're okay. Handmade, right? It's a handmade card. So this is a way to integrate your card front with the inside of your card by repeating elements from the front of the card on the inside. So you can see I've trimmed down that little greeting now, and pulling the purple in as well as the zigzag line kind of integrates it with the front. And then my two little stars here, one is wild dandelion and one is tangerine twist, pulls the orange and yellow colors in from the front as well. I'm just going to use my ATG gun to adhere this down. So super easy. And I'm going to stick this right in the middle. And then I will adhere a star to either side using some more liquid adhesive. And I thought at this point that I was probably done. Like, it seemed like that was plenty, and I wanted this to be a fairly simple card, but if you watch my videos, you know that I really cannot stop myself. So I decided I needed to add some Pretty Pink Posh clear sparkling stars to the front. It just needed some additional element to finish it off, and I just felt like without these it wasn't quite right. So I'm just using liquid glue and my jewel picker to pick up the little stars and adhere them down to the front. The glue does dry clear, so you can't tell when it's done. And these stars are really subtle because they are clear, but they have like a iridescent sheen on them, so when the light hits them just right, you do see them, and it helps pull that star motif from the inside to the front, but it also just added a tiny little extra something that kind of finished the whole thing off, and I was pretty happy with that little additional element. And that's the completed card. Now in the pictures you'll see some close-ups of everything and get a good feel for, hopefully, how that silver sparkle cardstock works with the alcohol inks. Like, hopefully there you can sort of see some of the rims around the colors and how really, really pretty, and look how sparkly it is. It's so cool. So I highly encourage you to try that cardstock with your alcohol inks if you have not already. It's so fun. Thank you so much for watching. As always, supplies are linked in the video description and over on my blog. If you liked the video, I'd really appreciate it if you give me a thumbs up and leave me a comment, because I love hearing from you and I'm trying to rebuild my channel after being gone for a while. You can also follow me on Instagram at blacksheep303. Thanks so much. Have a great day.